since you mentioned books, this is an impossible question, and I apologize ahead of time, but is there books you can recommend just in your own life that you've enjoyed, whether really small or some obvious recommendations that you recommend people read? It is a bit like asking what's your favorite band,
That's
kind of
right.
thing.
That's right. Well, would a book that got turned into a movie be acceptable as well?
Yes.
So in that case, all of us reflect on our own childhoods and that magical moment of uh, reading a book or seeing a movie that really got you launched on some particular set of things that you're going to find fascinating for the rest of your life. And there's a direct line to the topics we were talking about today from myself in the Chicagoland area as a kid, seeing the film of Dr. Zhivago,
Mhm.
and then later reading the novel on which it was based by Pasternak. And even though the film had to be filmed on location in Spain, pretending to be revolutionary Russia, it was magical for the sheer sweep and tragedy and human resilience that it showed. The very way in which a work of literature or of cinematography could capture so much, um, I'm still amazed by that. And then there's also, in the spirit of recommending neglected classics, my favorite author. My favorite author is now a late Canadian author by the name of Robertson Davies, who wrote novel after novel in a mode that probably would get called magical realism, but is so much more. Robertson Davies was heavily influenced by Carl Jung and Jungian philosophy, but in literary form, he managed to create stories that blend the mythical, the mystical, and the brutally real to paint a picture of Canada as he knew it, Europe as he knew it, and the world as he knew it. And he's most famous probably for the Deptford trilogy, 3 novels in a series that are linked, and they're just masterful. If only there were more books like that.
The Deptford trilogy, Fifth Business, the Manticore, World of Wonders, and you got a really nice beard.
Yes, it was an amazing beard. Very 19th century.
Okay, beautiful. What advice would you give to young people today that have just listened to us talk about the 20th century and the terrifying prospects of ideals implemented into reality? And by the way, many of the revolutions are carried out by young people. And so, the good and the bad and the ugly is thanks to the young people. So the young people listening today, what advice would you give them?
Well, it comes down to one word, and that one word is read. As a college teacher, I'm concerned about what I'm seeing unfolding before us, which is classes, not my classes, but classes in which students are asked to read very little, or maybe in some cases, not at all, or snippets that they are provided digitally. Uh, those have their place and can be valuable. But the task of sitting down with a book and absorbing its message, not agreeing with it necessarily, but taking in the implications, learning how to think within the categories and the values of the author is going to be irreplaceable. And my anxiety is that with college bookstores now moving entirely to the paperless format, it changes how people interact with texts. And if the result is not a renaissance and a resurgence of reading, but less reading, that will be dreadful, because the experience of thinking your way into other people's minds that sustained reading offers is so crucial to human empathy, a broadening of your own sensibilities of, what's possible, what's in the full range of being human, and then what's best. what are the best models for what has been thought and felt and how people have acted. Otherwise, we fall prey to manipulators and the ability of artificial intelligence to give us versions of realities that never existed and never will, and the like.
That's a really interesting idea. So let me give a shout out to Perplexity that I'm using here to sort of summarize and take quick notes and get little snippets of stuff, which is extremely useful. But books are not just about information transfer. It's just as you said, it's like a journey together with a set of ideas, and it's a conversation. And getting a summary of the book is the cliche thing is it's really getting to the destination without the journey. And the journey is the thing that's important, thinking through stuff. And I've actually learned, I've been surprised. I've trained my brain to be able to get the same thing from audiobooks also. It's a little bit more difficult because you don't control the pacing. Sometimes pausing is nice, but you could still get it from audiobooks. So it's an audio version of books. And that allows you to also go on a journey together, and sometimes more convenient because you could take it to more places with you.
That's right.
But there is a magical thing, and I also am trying to train myself mostly to use Kindle, the digital version of books. But there is unfortunately still a magical thing about being there with the page.
Well, audiobooks are definitely not to be scorned because, as people have pointed out, the original traditions of literature were oral, right? So that's actually the 1.0 version, right? And combining these things is probably the key. I think one of the things I find so wonderful about the best lectures that I've heard is it's a chance to hear someone thinking out loud, not laying down the law, but taking you through a series of logical moves, imaginative leaps, alternative suggestions, and that's much more than data transfer.
The use case of AI as a companion as you read is really exciting to me. I've been using it recently to basically, as you read, you can have a conversation with a system that has access to a lot of things about a particular paragraph. And I've been really surprised how my brain, when given some extra ideas, other recommendations of books, but also just like a summary of other ideas from elsewhere in the universe that relates to this paragraph, is like it sparks your imagination and thought, and you see the actual richness in the thing you're reading.
Right.
Now, nobody's, to my knowledge, has implemented a really intuitive interaction between AI and the text. Unfortunately, partially because the books are protected under DRM, and so there's like a wall where you can't the AI can't access the thing. So if you want to play with that kind of thing, you have to, break the law a little bit, which is not a nice thing, not a good thing. But just like with music, Napster came up. People started illegally sharing music. And the answer to that was Spotify, which made the sharing of music, revolutionized everything and made the sharing of music much easier. So there are some technological things that can enrich the experience of reading, but the actual painful, long process of reading is really useful. Just like boredom is useful.
That's right.
It's also called just sitting
An
there.
underrated virtue.
Yeah. And of course, you have to see the smartphone as a enemy, I would say, as of that special time you have to think, because social media companies are maximized to get your engagement. They want to grab your attention, and they grab that attention by making you as brain dead as possible and getting you to look at more and more and more things. So it's nice and fun. It's great. Recommend it highly. It's good for dopamine rush, but see it as a counter force to the process of sitting with an idea for a prolonged period of time, taking a journey through an expert, eloquently conveying that idea, and growing by having a conversation with that idea in a book is really, really powerful. So I agree with you totally. What gives you hope about the future of humanity? We've talked about the dark past. What gives you hope for the light at the end of the tunnel.
So we talked indeed about a lot of latent, really damaging and negative energies that are part of human nature. But I find hope in another aspect of human nature, and that is the sheer variety of human reactions to situations. The very fact that history is full of so many stories of amazing endurance, amazing resilience, the will to build up even after the horrors have passed. This to me is an inexhaustible source of optimism. And, there are some people who condemn cultural appropriation and say that borrowing from one culture to another is to be condemned. Well, the problem is a synonym for cultural appropriation is world history, trade, transfer of ideas, influences, valuing that which is unlike your own culture is also a form of appropriation, quite literally. And so that multitude of human reactions and the fact that our experience is so unlimited as history testifies gives me great hope for the future.
Yeah, and the willingness of humans to explore all of that with curiosity, even when the empires fall and the dreams are broken, we rise again.
That's right, unceasingly.
Vejas, thank you so much for your incredible work, your incredible lectures, your books, and thank you for talking today.
Thank you for this. Such a fun chat.